Okay, my notes say we're going to be speaking with a S.C.O.P.E detective, but I don't think we're going to be discussing bad breath. So, to tell us more about it, we're joining Dr. John Carlson remotely. Dr. John Carlson, how are you doing?
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for inviting me to your program.
Okay, Dr. Carlson, what can I say? You're going to have to explain the S.C.O.P.E to me.
Well, that it's a S.C.O.P.E detective. It's not a mouthwash detective. What I'm doing is, S.C.O.P.E is an acronym. I use it to describe all the things that I look at. S standing for structure. That's your muscles, your tendons, your bones, your nerves, your joints, the range of motion they have. The C stands for chemistry. I'm looking for your toxins, your infections, the allergies and what creates those, coming from the bacteria, the fungus, the yeast, the parasite, and so many other things that it can come from. The O, I'm looking for the organs. Are they moving three-dimensional? Are they infected with a problem that becomes something that distorts the rest of the body or influences anywhere from 15 to 50 muscles for each organ? And that's of the 635 muscles you have. And the P is for psychological, emotional. And there's emotional stress, and there's not just emotional stress, but there's a lot of other stressors that happen and affect you psychologically and emotionally. There's trauma that's occurred into your life. There's people who've dealt with you, the people that you've dealt with, perceptions that you've had that are functional or not functional based upon an idea or decision you made. The E is electrical magnetic frequencies. Every one of your cells communicates. Most people are familiar with the nerves. And the nerves, how they have to communicate, or your muscles don't move, or your organs don't work. But what most people aren't familiar with is the fascia. There's a cell-to-cell communication.
Whoa, wait a minute. The fascia? You got me there. What is fascia?
Fascia is an interesting tissue. You're familiar with it because you've pulled apart chicken or turkey and you've seen that white sheathy layer.
Yeah.
You and I have that underneath our skin. And it surrounds every single muscle and every organ, and it is a continuous sheath from the top of your body, to the bottom of your feet, like you are saran wrapped and vacuum packed. And what happens is that has a tensile strength of 2,000 pounds per square inch from the neck down, or 4,000 pounds per square inch from the head up. And if trauma happens to the head, or trauma happens to the elbow or the hip or the knee, that will tighten up with 2,000 pounds per square inch. Or put your head in a vise with 4,000 pounds per square inch. Much like you taking a piece of saran wrap and dropping it to the floor, and you were to take and pinch it, it would ripple up and ripple down. That's distortions in your body from this one thing causing problems and distortions up and down. And the body then begins to tighten up the muscles and tighten up the fascia, like heat-on plastic will shrink it. And if you don't deal with that, you have one thing here that down in the knee or the hip that goes into other places that you hadn't thought of, but you think, oh, it's just my pain here. But now you have a compromised shoulder, your neck doesn't move so well.
Okay, well, I mean, you spoke earlier about the O for organs, though. We all understand the relationship between the adjustment, the nervous system, and the organs, but what else can we do?
So one of the things that you can do is proper stretching. Now, they're making sure that every joint moves in its full range of motion. If it doesn't, that lack of motion within that joint will influence a problem within an organ. Crazy, but it's true. There's people who do Qi, and you've seen them on TV more than likely in China, and these guys have lived to 100 years old and they can still move. The reason they're moving is because their organs move and they have full range of motion of their joints. So organs, yes, you need to do the proper choices of foods, the proper choices of toxins that you subject yourself to. But there's more to it than just that.
Okay, then explain stress, the emotional aspect.
Stress is an important piece of that because there's stressors that in relationships, there's stressors that the relationships will work. There's stressors with a relationship with kids. There's stressors as a relationship of all the intermingling parts of the family. There's a stress of a perception, a misguided perception or a dysfunctional perception. There's emotions that you haven't processed properly that will be stored in an organ. Now, when those things aren't functionally handled, they become something that within your body, within specific organs, or within your mind, or within your emotions, begin to be the glass that you look through life with. That program becomes an internal program that you now view the world. You react to the world that way, and you deal with the world through those pair of glasses. If it's a good pair of glasses and you choose it, great. But if it's one that when you recognize that, hey, I don't want that, it's time to remove it so you can look through it a different way and not have to live with that limitation.
Okay. And as far as the C for chemical, we always talk about the limiting the toxins in our body, eating more organic. But there's so many toxins in the world today. Is it a losing battle?
You know, that's a really good question. If you try to learn about all the toxins, you'd spend a lifetime and there'd be libraries full, because there are 30 new toxins coming down the pike that have never touched a human liver every day. So your best hope is a strong defense. That's where you get your immune system and your body working the way it should. And I like to use the word scope, because if I work with the structure, the chemistry, the organs, the psychological, emotional, and electromagnetic fields of your body, and get those in their optimum, you're more likely to be able to deal with that in a functional way, and it won't take you down. You'll be able to have the health reserve that you need, that when some junk comes along, or some crap impacts you, or some injury occurs, you have the depth of reserve to rebound and recover.
Good. Well, so to wrap up SCOPE, why is this important for us to understand these principles about SCOPE?
Well, what's important is that you need to identify what you need to manage. If you're proactive and look at and identify these things and take them in a preemptive way before they're too big, then it makes it a lot easier to have a better quality of life.
Good. So listening to what you're saying, you seem to be talking about looking at the body as a whole. Well, this doesn't fit into the traditional medical model of today that looks more like symptoms. Now, am I correct about that?
That's precisely why we have a healthcare system that is really a disease care system.
Oh, that's a fact.
It's not our standard is like, you're more profitable when you're sick, but with our livestock, we got to keep them healthy so we can sell them. So they're profitable if they're well. We have a healthcare system rated 37th in the world, in America, behind small countries such as Qatar or Morocco. Really? With the money we spend? Because we've identified a normal average person as someone who a third of them will have cancer. Half of them will have a heart attack or a heart problem. 65% of them are obese. Every one of those conditions causes many other ones. Do you want to play that game? I don't. And so if we're going to play the game and we want to play to win, that cannot be the standard.
Oh, I agree. I mean, the responsibility for your health should start with yourself. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Carlson, for joining us.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time and your interest.
Thank you. So how do you view your body with regard to health? Do you treat each symptom with a drug or some external relief? Or do you find the cause and take action for a long, healthy life?